I had just moved into my new apartment, excited to have a space of my own for the first time. The room was small, dimly lit, with a creaky wooden floor that groaned with every step. I unpacked my boxes, arranging books and clothes, feeling a sense of relief from the chaos of moving. But as night fell, a cold draft swept through the room, and I felt a strange unease. Something about the room didn't feel right. That night, I lay in bed scrolling on my phone, listening to the rain against the window. The room felt unusually silent, almost as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Suddenly, I heard a faint scraping noise from beneath the bed. My heart raced, but I convinced myself it was just a mouse or the wind. I turned on a small lamp, peering under the bed. Nothing. Just shadows and dust.
On the third night, the scraping returned, louder this time. I froze when two small glowing red eyes appeared from the darkness under my bed. My body was paralyzed with fear. The eyes blinked slowly, unblinking, watching me intently. I could feel a presence, cold and heavy, pressing down on my chest. I wanted to scream, but my throat felt like stone. Over the next few days, small things began disappearing. My phone charger vanished, my shoes were moved, and a chilling whisper occasionally grazed my ears. Every time I approached my bed, the red eyes appeared, peeking from the darkness. My friends laughed when I told them, claiming it was just stress from moving, but I knew it wasn't my imagination. Something was in the room with me. Determined to face it, I decided to film the area under my bed with my phone. That night, I set up the camera and went to sleep, pretending to be calm. Hours passed, and suddenly my phone vibrated violently. On the screen, the eyes stared directly into the camera, glowing brighter than before. And then a shadowy hand reached out, grasping at the lens. I screamed and flung the phone across the room. That night, sleep became unbearable. Every time I tried to rest, I woke up frozen, unable to move. The glowing eyes would appear at the edge of my vision, inching closer. Sometimes a cold hand would brush my face and a whisper would hiss my name. It felt like the ghost was testing me, feeding on my fear. My apartment, once a safe haven, had become a prison. In desperation, I reached out to a paranormal expert. He told me that the spirit I was dealing with might have been trapped in the apartment long before I moved in. He instructed me to cleanse the room with salt and protective symbols, warning that the entity was intelligent and malevolent. That night, I sprinkled salt and recited prayers. But as I turned off the lights, the glowing eyes stared back at me, defiant, unafraid. On the first night after cleansing, I felt a strange silence. Then a whisper emerged, clear and cold. Why are you here? My hands trembled as I responded aloud, demanding it leave. The eyes blinked, slowly moving under the bed. I realized this spirit was not just haunting. It was aware, intelligent, and perhaps lonely.
Over the next few days, the ghost grew bolder. Objects flew across the room, the floorboards creaked violently, and shadows twisted in unnatural shapes. The glowing eyes were everywhere, in mirrors, in reflections, and even on the walls. I slept sitting up, clutching a salt-covered circle around my bed, but the entity ignored the boundaries, laughing in soft, chilling tones. Determined to understand it, I dug into the apartment's history. I discovered that a young boy had mysteriously disappeared decades ago, last seen in the room I now inhabited. Legends claimed he had a twin, a darker twin, who was said to linger between worlds, unseen but always watching. The pieces clicked together. The glowing eyes, the whispers, the unseen presence. It wasn't just any ghost. It was that twin, trapped and angry. I tried to speak to the spirit, asking it why it tormented me. At first, only silence answered, then a soft sob. Slowly, it seemed to want attention, a connection. I offered words of comfort, acknowledging its pain. For the first time, the eyes softened, flickering between red and a dull yellow glow. But even then, it would lash out if I showed fear. One night, the entity became violent. The bed lifted slightly, as if an invisible hand held it. The eyes glowed intensely, burning into my soul. I was thrown to the floor as whispers screamed around me. I realized appeasement alone wouldn't work. I needed to banish it. Clutching salt and reciting ancient prayers I had learned, I demanded the spirit leave. It shrieked, the air grew icy, and objects smashed around the room. In a final act of courage, I leaned over the bed, staring directly into the glowing eyes. I spoke firmly, demanding the spirit find peace or be bound to the room forever. The eyes flickered, the room trembled, and a cold wind blew out the candle. Silence fell. For what felt like hours, nothing moved. Then the eyes slowly dimmed and vanished. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night, waiting for any sign of return. Days later, the room returned to normal. The cold drafts stopped, the whispers ceased, and the creeping shadows were gone. I never saw the glowing eyes again. Though I was terrified, I felt a strange connection to the spirit, knowing it had finally moved on. That experience taught me the fragile line between life and the unseen, and the courage it takes to confront what lurks in the darkness. I never forgot those eyes, burning in the dark, a reminder that fear is often the gateway to understanding.